Okay, folks, you are here today with Samuel Trapp. I am still in the country of Colombia, in the city of Armenia. And I like this place. I think Colombia gets a bad rap in the United States. Everywhere you go, like I said yesterday, people come to you in America, or people hear you're here, family, friends. Oh my gosh, are you being careful? Oh gee, is everything okay? Yeah. Yesterday I went to a national park. Probably turned out to be an hour and a half from here. It was a long road, a little tourist city in between. Seemed to be the target of where everyone was trying to go spend some time. Stopped there on the way back. Wish I could remember the name of the city, but it was more because that's where everybody was going that we went to. But that place was packed, and there were tourists from everywhere. Everybody wearing these cool... I bought a hat in Greece years ago, and I bought another one. Can't remember. Might have been in Italy that I bought as well, and I use it to pin my flags on. And I was looking for looking for a flag to add to my hat, which has 52 flags on. I was looking to add a 53rd flag of Colombia. It also has a little pin I picked up that I forget what it means, but it's kind of it's a little blue eye looking thing that I also got in Greece. And there's a couple other symbols in there, but usually I swap them to another hat. And at any rate, that place was packed. Everybody else was wearing these cool hats and poncho things, a little thinner, somewhat shorter than the type I like that come from Mexico, where Clint Eastwood made one very popular for me. I already have one from Mexico, so I didn't buy anything from here. And I saw a guy wandering around in a very cool hat, so I bought this extremely cool hat in Peru, turns out. I bought that hat in Peru, and it was a cool one, and the best I can give as an example, this was a couple years ago when I was in Peru. I bought this cool hat that had the little, I don't know, Pippi Longstocking ponytail sort of things that come off on the sides. The nearest I can equate it to is like one Ron Weasley wore in Harry Potter, and it has the same sort of long Pippi Longstocking thing in the middle of the hat on the top. And I saw this guy wandering around. And I'm not sure he was from America. His accent was different, but he could have been somebody from the Northeast. But I'm pretty sure he was, if not American, at least had been in America a number of times. Great big guy, muscular sort of guy. Anyway, he was wearing this really cool hat, and I saw it, and I was like, oh my God, they sell them here too. I gave it to my son, and I don't want to take it back, but I was hoping to find another one because it was a pretty cool hat, and I liked wearing it. And I wore it all over Russia, and people thought it was, wow, they love that hat. I don't know why, but I loved it too. And when I walked up to the guy, I said, hey, you speak English? He goes, yeah. And I said, man, that hat. He goes, no, it's not for sale. Everybody's asking me for my hat. And I was like, no. I said, I bought one. I was hoping I could buy, but I gave it to my son. I was hoping I could buy another one here. And he goes, no, I got this in Peru. And I said, yeah, that's where I got mine. I said, I was thinking I'm in Colombia. Maybe I'm not too far from Peru. I don't know, I'm very far from Peru, but it's you're not getting your hat here in Colombia. The cool hat, you're not getting it. I don't know where I'm going with that story. Who really cares? But that's what happened yesterday. These people were out wandering, and the markets were full of people out. Apparently, I'm not sure if they're still celebrating or if this is a thing, because that place was seriously packed, and so was this park. And the park was an interesting concept. So there's a one-lane road all the way out there, and we went 30, let's call it, well, from the city, the last decent, from the city where there were restaurants and tourist trappy places, and it was a cool little city. From there to the park was about 30 kilometers, which comes out to what, 18 and a half miles, something like that. So it's not very far. And it took us hour and 45 minutes to get there. And it's all one lane, backed up the entire way, so motorcycles are zipping by you. It's a windy mountain road to get you to this place. And when you get there, the place is just packed, and there are these parking spaces on the sides, in the mud. The street is covered with horse dung and covered with, people are walking, but it's so beautiful. The town was just incredible. And so you go walking into there, and it was kind of a cool concept. What if somebody came up with a concept like this in a very beautiful touristy view area, mostly for the views. I mean, the view, it's all national park area, but right outside of the national park, or alongside the national park, are all these people selling their wares, and mostly foodstuffs and snacks, and they have some souvenir-y sort of things there. And but this cool place, one of them cost us, I don't know, $8 to get in there, was a place which had all of these cool backgrounds that you could take photos in. Like there was, for example, a set of hot air balloons. There were a set of Jeeps loaded with goods, like a family was moving, and they were stacked really high, like the Beverly Hillbillies, like they're moving from Kentucky to Hollywood in gold, that is. And they're moving movie stars. They're moving to a place, and so they had a couple you could take photos like that. They had a door to nowhere, so you could stand in a door and get a picture of a mountain behind you. There were little kid car things, kids for jumping in cars. There were pictures of the town itself, the name of the town. Like you can go get your picture in front of a little set of letters that spells out Bogota or Colombia or things like that. And it was kind of a cool concept, and people were everywhere in there taking their photos. And the place truly reminded me of Dr. Seuss, because there were so many different things and so many colorful things that it was pretty cool. Went to a fantastic restaurant called Simon is what it turned out to be. Simon. And that was pretty darn neat to be what a place. I'd strongly recommend that place to anyone who wanted to go there, for sure. There's a coffee farm near here. I'm always into going to a coffee place. I would love that, to go to a coffee place again, because I just like tours of coffee, tours of places where you can eat little cafe style things and drink some coffee. That's always a lot of fun. And so I'm pretty easy to entertain or to please. I'm just much more interested in seeing something different, having food in a different place. The travel to other countries for me is pretty simple. You know, I don't even care if it's all the touristy places. Like this place is off the beaten path, and Simon Campestre is what it was called. That restaurant, and I tell you what, but wandering these roads was crazy, and getting on these roads, they take forever to get somewhere, and there are so many different things to see in this country. Yesterday, come back. So here's some changes that you have to kind of get used to. So you come out in the morning, like I did yesterday morning, to do my show and get it recorded for the day, and the parking lot it's a 3-level parking garage, and I'm on the top. My assigned floor is the top floor. Just got to find a place up here to park, and it the cars here, boy, I tell you what, they don't give you a lot of room to park. You got to be pretty good. There's not much room in between the cars, and so people are mostly gone fairly early in the morning. But at night when you come back, boy, the place is packed. And trying to find a place to eat in this little town of Armenia, well, it's actually a pretty good sized city, is a nightmare. This place is spread out, but the only thing I can think, and I don't know if I'm correct in this or not, but these are impressions that you get when you travel, and finding a place to eat at, I don't know, 7:30 at night, 8 p.m. Tell you what, maybe they all get up real early, and it's easy to get breakfast, but it's 7:30 right. 8:15 right now, and people are. This parking lot is a third full. Yesterday it was emptier, and maybe it'd be easier to find a place to eat right now that everybody's early risers. I don't know, but all I know is at 8 o'clock, it was nearly impossible to find a place to eat. Everybody was closing up. We pulled into a place at 7:30. Nope, told to get out. Pulled into another place a little bit before 8 o'clock. Looked like a reasonably good restaurant, and one kid came out and said, no, we're closing up. And there was still a good number of cars in the parking lot. And we followed another group who appeared to be leaving from there, found another restaurant, and got in right after them, and they shut the door behind us. And it was 8, we were the last ones in there to get a sandwich and some cappuccino. And I like to take pictures of my cappuccino and put a I don't know. I do a lot of Google reviews. I have 15 million reviews of my Google Maps. I do reviews of restaurants. You don't get paid for anything for doing it, but I speak about what you can eat. I put pictures of the food that I ate. It'd be really nice if you could monetize. I don't know if it's I suppose monetize would be freaking fantastic, because somebody, Google could pay me for all of my reviews. But what you get instead is this little badge that says, oh gee, Sam's a reviewer, has reviewed all these places. If I eat in a place like yesterday, this hasn't happened in a long time, but yesterday it did happen. We were in a little coffee shop. Where was that coffee shop? One too far. And went to this coffee shop to get I only eat one meal a day usually, and but I will get coffee every once in a while. When I get coffee, I'll get something else, but I'll do cappuccino, and I'll drink a cappuccino or even two. And I went to went to this coffee shop, and I was just gonna, and it was kind of cool what they did on the top of the coffee. On the top of the coffee, they wrote "Gracias" on your coffee. Well, I hadn't seen something where they actually wrote something with a chocolate syrup. You know, I hadn't seen that before. And so I took a picture of it, and I wanted to post it and do a review of this little restaurant and go, hey, here's a little photo of the coffee, you know. It does them a favor. And I discovered that they weren't on the Google Maps. Now, we could speak politically about that as well, because the Google Maps, you're not even allowed to put anything on a Google map when you're in Russia. In Russia, if it's not on there, you can't add it. But anywhere else, you can add it. You can review a place that's in Russia and is already on a map. But if it is 2-3 years old, you know, whenever sanctions were really hit and Google started participating, why? Who the hell knows? What the hell does Google Earth have to do with sanctions? And all they've done, I mean, I don't know. I suppose I could lecture on that topic, but think about that. You have a Google map, you have a Wikipedia, let's say, and the Wikipedia doesn't include information from one region of the world. Now, why would that be? That just makes zero sense to me. And but at any rate, you can't add it in. But yesterday I added this coffee shop and I've only been able to add 3. You get a little badge for adding places, and apparently once you add 15, because I don't know, I just, if it's not on there, I add it, and I put some pictures of it and said, here is the coffee shop. It's next to this gift shop, but it's not on the map, and Google says thank you for adding it. They verify the data somehow, whether it's Big Brother drones coming down and checking out that it's really there, but they ask you if you own the place, and they put all of these things together for the company so you can review these places. And I review them, and usually, I don't want to say that I'm too easy with my reviews, but you really gotta suck if you're gonna get a bad review from me. You gotta just be terrible. And I've done some bad reviews, but most of the time I'm pretty, hey, this is a cool little place. Maybe you could get here, because I like the variety. So, and maybe I shouldn't get paid for my reviews after all. But I like putting things out there and taking. I'm a food picture taker. I like to try different things and put different pictures out there of the food. I don't eat a lot of pork, and sometimes I do, but it really, you want to piss me off on a review, and again, I'm straying a little bit from where I was going today, but it's international travel. You want to piss me off by feeding me. Tell me why somebody, this is a burning question in the mind of, and it should be of every American. Now, I like bacon. I like bacon as bacon. But Jesus, you ever pay attention to all the bacon in every freaking thing in America? You can't have a steak without wrapping a perfectly good piece of cow with some pig. Why are we doing that? I asked somebody once, and he gave me a lecture. Oh, well, we do that because that seals in the juices and the flavor. Yeah, with bacon? Yeah, come on. How are you ruining the beautiful taste of beef by wrapping it in pig and a big pile of salt? You want to put a big salt in there, throw some freaking salt on your steak, or sear the edges around the edge, burn in the juices that way. How about that, Mr. Chef? Burn in those juices, roll that steak sear it on each side, or compress it with something. Now, do something with it. I don't know. And then, because you know how you sear a steak on this, well, they put the bacon into, that's why we put the bacon around. Yeah, great. Make bacon out of beef, and maybe I'll agree with you, but I don't want to turn my filet mignon into a piece of ham. Why would I do that? And I never do understand that. Some places you go, you can only buy it wrapped in bacon. And, I don't take a perfectly good steak and destroy it by putting ketchup on it. I don't do that either. And I want I don't eat steak all that often, but when I do, boy, I tell you what, I wrote in this review not long ago, somebody and I'm totally babbling today. I'm really sorry about that, but I'm letting my mind go where it's going. I have a list of things I want to get through because there's some interesting world events, but I hope you enjoy my little rant this morning, which is really the afternoon for you on a Friday afternoon and the last show of the week. And sorry I have to record it and no one can call in again, but I did a review of this and said exactly what I just said. Why in the world are you, if you're going to wrap my beef in a piece of pig, you should at least put it on the menu. You can't claim you're selling me a filet mignon and then have one of these Sam's Club wrapped filet. What the hell is that? And I'm in, but that was in Florida somewhere, but I've seen it happen elsewhere. It happened here in Colombia at the table next door too. Just crazy stuff. Anyway, that makes no political difference whatsoever. But if you're going to do it, what if I was a Muslim? What if I was a Muslim and I couldn't eat the steak? Now you've really created a problem, right? Because here I've ordered my filet mignon, and it doesn't say that you've wrapped it in pig, and it comes out to my table, and there's my steak wrapped in pig. You haven't created a flavor problem. You've created a religious offense. And there you are with your. Now you can't eat that steak even if they take it in the back and unwrap it from the bacon. Because the bacon has destroyed, for that person, the food. You can't. Being Muslim doesn't mean you get to sprinkle the flavor of bacon somewhere, or use bacon juice. It means you can't eat bacon, and that includes the juice. So I don't know. You don't want to create international incidents by that. And I remember it when I lived in a Muslim country in Qatar. Maybe I'm a little more sensitive to those sort of issues, because there you didn't have to ask whether the ground meat used in the queso in a Mexican restaurant, whether it was made of pork or beef, because you couldn't buy pork except at special stores. There were special stores where you could go as a Westerner, and your boss had to get you permission to go to in Qatar, where you could buy pork, you could buy alcohol, you could buy things that you couldn't buy in different stores, but they had these Western stores. But you couldn't just go down the street and stop in at a liquor store and buy liquor. You couldn't just go to a grocery store and buy bacon. You had to go to separate sorts of stores. And I don't know if that's still the case, but it was in 2014, 2015. And I went to Qatar last year, but I love Qatar, by the way. And if you get a chance to go there, go to Doha, oh baby, you would certainly enjoy it. Extremely. There's some money there, people. And that is worth the visit. Definitely worth the visit. So, in Colombia, went to this national park yesterday. It was a beautiful area to go. Relaxing day, just checking out the sights. A little bit longer on the drive that I wanted. And on the return back to the apartment, found a little cafe / restaurant that also made fantastic cappuccino. And I do like my cappuccino. And here, when you order a cappuccino here, And it seems to be well, everywhere. In fact, everywhere I've gotten cappuccino, probably in the world, they always put the mix on the top and try to put a little cool pattern, whether it's a heart or whether it's a, I don't know what. I've seen some pretty cool ones. The one that said gracias on it was pretty entertaining with the chocolate syrup. And I wanted to get into some of the news today, and that is the light part of the show today. Went ahead and did that first. Have you ever noticed the difference of, and if you don't watch it, you don't know, but I have an Android tablet. I'm using it here this morning, and then I have an Android telephone. And one of them, like the tablet, sometimes it's in Russian and sometimes it's in English. And so when Google or whatever source uses your telephone to give you notifications and your daily news, which drives me crazy, sometimes it's in Russian and sometimes it's in English. Well, last night I was reviewing some of the content of the shows that some of my content for this show, and some of the news events that I read on Al Jazeera, RT, India Times, and then U.S. counterparts. And this morning, when I was looking on it, there was something that came up in Russian, and it was Voice of America, written in Russian, in Colombia. Now that was, it kind of automatically took me to, maybe it's because my phone is a U.S. based phone. I don't know. I don't know the rules related to that, but I know this morning that Google or whoever's in charge of my phone, in charge of my Android, knows that I speak Russian and that I read, quite a bit in Russian. And so there's Voice of America in Russian for me. Now, I've told you about this before, but if you ever want to, Voice of America is RT, is Al Jazeera, is Times of India for the rest of the world, where this political and propaganda battles, if you want to call it that, are ongoing everywhere. And so everybody has their own propaganda war machine, right? And you like I've said repeatedly, when you read the information, you need to try to glean out the information and not the words, and try to ignore the clearly political twist. Like, anytime you see anything on Voice of America that talks about the war in Ukraine, they'll call it either Putin's war, to indicate that this is nobody's war, Putin is the only one that's responsible for this war, or they'll call it the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. And both of those are not true, and they're innocuous words. Putin's war, well, yeah, Putin's involved. I suppose you'd call it Putin's war. An invasion, did troops go into there? Well, yeah, but if they were asked, is it really an invasion? And so it's funny because obviously the twist is the other direction. If you are reading it, you're not going to find good adjectival words about Zelensky in a Russian newspaper. If you find the really bad ones, if you listen to Solovyov will always call him a clown. Well, he was a clown. Always call him the Ukrainian comic. Everybody knows the Ukrainian comic is Zelensky. Zero political experience before, but that's who the U.S. picks. Victoria Nuland crowd picks somebody like that, and I'm not against that. If you have a real, someone who's a patriot, and give him a chance. I mean, I suppose we've had our Arnold Schwarzeneggers and our Ronald Reagans, and God knows there's other people who, and here's Donald Trump, who have not been seasoned politicians, but that doesn't mean they're going to have a training period, and Zelensky's training period is ongoing from my point of view. Nor did I ever think that guy would seriously be. All he is a money grubber. All he is a beggar on behalf of his country, and that I believe. And if anybody, you're allowed to think differently. That's yours. But when I read the news, it's funny to get how there are. And this morning in the news were reports about Finland. And Finland, if you guys aren't aware of this, I saw this happen on Christmas Day, I want to say. And there was a Russian tanker. Well, that's a different part of the entire story too. It's a United Arab Emirates tanker that is flagged in the UAE. And this flagged UAE tanker, allegedly carrying Russian oil to avoid sanctions. This oil tanker was going through in between Finland and Estonia, and allegedly dragged its anchor along the bottom of the ocean and tore up the fiber optic cable lines and some communication lines and destroyed them. Well, the Finnish authorities came and seized the ship and its contents, by the way, said they were taking the contents. Now, how that relates to tearing up the I smell rat here, and it was a Voice of America telling the story. It will be a completely different story from the other side, and it is, of course. And that story from the Voice of America side was, oh boy, these guys are really doing a good job here. They've taken this tanker, they're taking the oil. That's important. The most important part is to take this oil and confiscate it for the Finnish authorities, and then hold this ship, this UAE ship, and the UAE is asking them to release it for as long as possible to obtain evidence. I'm not sure what evidence you're going to get from the ship, and if you haven't already, maybe you should. It's been a week or more, that you could just get the evidence and release the ship. Well, no, then, the U.S., of course, is very much in favor of assisting. And the story in this morning was, and now they've asked NATO to jump in and help in the investigation. NATO should help. NATO, who can't tell you yet who in the world had anything to do with tearing up Nord Stream 2, Severny Potok. They haven't been able to figure out who's responsible for that, nor are they even looking. They're very much interested in finding out whether some Russian oil avoider to avoid sanctions has anything to do with tearing up the fiber optic cables on the bottom of the Baltic Sea, but nothing on the Baltic Sea having to do with blowing up an explosion, a military operation, blowing up Nord Stream 2. Nobody can figure out who's done it. And the only people allegedly looking are NATO investigators from, Brussels is really checking this out, but they have zero answers, and their commission is doing the same thing the U.S. is going to do. You just leave that go away till people quit considering it. But if it's from Finland and Finland seizes a UAE tanker, we'll help you hold that tanker as long as possible, because somehow Russia's involved because it's a UAE ship, but by God, that ain't UAE oil up there. That's oil they're carting around for the Russians. They call it the Russian Shadow Fleet. I don't know what's true or not true in any of that. I'm just telling you that the twists of what you choose to believe could go many, many different directions. And so you just need to be careful what you choose to believe. And so I try to give you a pretty good one, like from RT. This one would be... and this was interesting to me too, because If you are aware, there's been some commentary by Musk recently. Musk is getting involved more and more globally, politically. And you wonder, like I said yesterday, if he's the George Soros for the other side. Because Soros has been obviously involved in slanting our elections in the United States for a good long time, and I think he's a menace, and he should have been stopped years ago. But now do we have the same thing going on the other side? Just because we like Elon Musk right now, and Trump likes Elon Musk, and doesn't mean there aren't stories about him living at Mar-a-Lago, taking living at Trump's place in New York. There are stories like that going around too. Maybe he has a too big of an influence. I don't know, don't really care. Trump is the president. We elected him. He can get his advice from whom he believes. But don't think that the national media, that the world media isn't still attacking and trying to politically kill Donald Trump, if not in reality. And they're doing the same thing to Elon Musk because he's very powerful in the world just because of who he is, just like George Soros. Why is it that all these people that become multi-billionaires are people from foreign countries? And then they want to influence U.S. information in the way that U.S. information feed in the way they do, or U.S. politics in the way they do. Just a thought process. Anyway, an RT story. The H1B visa war exposes a deeply American problem. Now, I used to work in before I became a lawyer, I worked as an HR director for very large, for quite a few very large companies, Fortune 500, traded on the stock exchange, for their plants. While I was in law school, in fact, I worked for a company called SGL Carbon, German company, that if you understand anything about the making of steel, and these electrodes are huge graphite rods that they use to heat, because they conduct a lot of heat, and so they used them in the melting process for heating steel, and it was a cleaner, and if you can use graphite to get that done. Anyway, these huge electrodes you see look like enormous batteries going down the back of and I think you haven't seen a whole lot of them then, but way back then you saw them all the time, and they were very big in Europe, and all of these graphite. Then it became graphite was used for semiconductor. Anyway, I worked in this company called SGL Carbon, and it was a U.S. version that went bankrupt, and you could in these big companies, they would have divisions that you would need to have very, very intelligent people that worked in a specific sphere. And in SGL Carbon, most of these people came from Germany and came from industrial Germany, because that is where this technology originated. And so the people that would come over would be specialists from there, and they'd want to come work in steel or in graphite or in semiconductor. The semiconductor people were all coming from China or were coming from India. And so I became familiar with the H1B process and how it worked. Later, I worked at a company called Temple Inland Forest Products, which got bought out by, I don't remember, Georgia Pacific Paper or something, and another Fortune 500. And that place, we were starting something called fiber cement. And fiber cement was something that you use. It's like tile backer board. You see those backer boards called Hardy? Well, James Hardy Forest Products, and they were very strong in the backer board in Texas. And that's where this process to have East Texas is full of this pine and in this pine forests over there. They would use a mixture of pine, sawdust, and concrete. And when I was at Temple Inland, we're starting a new factory to compete with. I hired all the initial workers for that factory, for fiber cement factory in Waxahachie, Texas. And this factory, there were 400 employees, and I was number, I don't know, 8, 10, something like that. I was the HR director, and I hired all the lines of people, a brand new building, brand new process. And Hardy Backer Board was, I don't know, 40, 50 miles away in a neighboring town. And the money for fiber backer board was pretty big, but the technology was not American technology. The technology came from Australia. And Australia is where they started making this backer board. And the U.S. started doing this fiber cement backing. And one of the first ones was James Hardy. James Hardy ended up buying out our plant, in fact. So I worked there several years, hired all the people, we got it up and running, and then sold it to James Hardy. So monopoly at its finest, and everybody loses their jobs. Here you go again, and the corporate wheels go round and round. And anyway, the H1B process is how you get these experts from other places into the country. And I had to be familiar, and in fact worked while I was in law school, because I was interested in these kind of things. And I was in law school while working at Fortune Fiber and while working at SGL Carbon. And my boss was Indian, and he was really cool, at least for the SGL Carbon place. His name was Yadwinder Singh, and I called him Yad Monster. And me and Yad, we had a great time there. And I think that Yad was from what was that region? Well, I wish I could remember my Indian regions a little better, but I learned about Indian food from him, learned about a little bit of culture about him, and he was a great guy to work with. And he came over on an H1B to work with SGL car sales as well. Hope I didn't destroy that. And at any rate, the H1B process is now in the news because Elon Musk talked about it. And so RT from its Russia Today, from its political side on the other side, is talking about an H1B war. Because in America now we're all against immigrants, and not just the people who dash across the border. We're against them all, right? There's the immigration is a serious issue in America, and I'm not for just an open floodgate of people coming in. I'm all for taking skilled workers, which is what the H1B program is all about, and not let's bring their best and brightest. That's what everyone else in the world is doing. When you go into Russia, if you've got a skill, you can get permitted to stay. If you have a good skill and you want to go to China, you can stay. There are a lot of countries that have similar sorts of programs, and we have one. It's called the H1B. And so but Musk has said some things about it. Here's Musk and Bannon little tough tiff between them shows U.S. elites are still far from even understanding their country's real problem. Well, a lot of people can't even spell H1B. You don't know what it's for, you don't know why it's there, and you certainly don't know the rules. I'm no expert anymore, but years ago I was very familiar with it, and I worked on a couple of H1Bs over the years. And the program usually has a limit on the number that you can bring in. But if you have, this is how baseball players get in. This is how doctors get in from other countries, and we rob everybody of all of their doctors. This is, they're decent doctors anyway. And this is how computer programmers get in. And they get all this huge money, but there seems to be a tendency in America to think that you can't hire these people here, that you must get them from other countries. Now that I disagree with. And part of the H-1B process is that you're supposed to, like when we had to hire the fiber cement experts, which we got, wish I could remember his name, he was hilarious, reminded me of Crocodile Dundee. The guy that we hired from Australia, who was an engineer and worked in fiber cement in Australia for many years, would come over, and he was the production and technical manager for our process in America. Well, it's because we couldn't find one in America because there was nobody with that kind of expertise. And so whoever went to Australia to find this guy found an expert, found somebody over, and we started a process through the legal department of how to bring him into the country and have him be in charge of our production process. Well, it's a somewhat involved process, and you put their resume together, you put their background together, and that is how the H1B process works. So if you have somebody who's a star baseball player, I remember, what was the huge Chinese basketball player from years ago, or the Romanian basketball players, Russian hockey players. I was involved in bringing a couple of hockey players over, and because of, obviously my Russian skills and whatnot. And anyway, there's this H1B process that you go through is pretty stinking involved. And so, but a lot of people don't understand how H1B relates to the other types of visa. There are so many types of visas in America that you can come over for so many different things. I talk about the U4U program, the Ukrainian visa program for people escaping war-torn Ukraine, that come over and get free money. This is how it works. Well, these are the elites. Anyway, the dispute. Here's the article. To paraphrase the American film classic The Big Lebowski, say what you will about Trumpism, but at least it's neither united nor dull. U.S. Uber oligarch Elon Musk, recently promoted to President-elect Donald Trump. This is the political part. I hope you enjoy this part. And I try to tell you about the politics in here before I read it. Recently promoted to President-elect Donald Trump's first buddy, has used his very own X platform to tell other Trump supporters to take a big step back and F-K yourself in the face, fully spelled out in the original. The designated co-leader of the new Department of Government Efficiency, Musk also threatened to go to war with a ferocity beyond what we mere mortals can comprehend. See how political that was? Using a rival social media platform, American far-right nationalist guru, as well as former Trump first buddy, Stephen Bannon, reacted by calling Musk a man-child and toddler in need of child services. For good measure, he also denounced him as, in effect, a coward who punches down instead of fighting guys his own size or bigger. On his own podcast show, The War Room, Bannon, too, trumpeted his joy at not backing down, but going for victory with a fixed bayonet advance. Clearly, it's hard for middle-aged plus American alpha males not to fantasize their keyboard tussles into heroic live shootouts at the online corral. This is well written. It's funny. That's why I'm reading this. As of 2022, the U.S. has been at war for 231 of the 248 years of its hyperactive existence. Militarism has mental consequences. Now that's extremely political, yes? And in the background of that clash of the ego titans, X was so abuzz with posts accusing Musk of massively censoring those disagreeing with him that the platform's own Grok AI picked up on the quarrel under the headlines, X's free speech debate, Musk's moves questioned. Grok came to the oddly academic conclusion that some users were suggesting a nuanced view where free speech is selectively applied. And they say AI doesn't have a sense of humor. All of the above, please note, was just the tip of the big Trumpist iceberg. Excuse me. The reason for so much rough play escalating so quickly in MAGA-land, U.S. visas. U.S. visas. To be precise, the fairly small-scale yet important H1B program, about which more will be provided below. In essence, Musk and his crowd are for H1Bs. Bannon and company are against. But as in ever proper stormy marriage bus stop, the occasion of the screaming match was far from all that it was really about. Instead, H1B is just a trigger for an explosion of pent-up tension in Trumpism 2.0 camp. And it's been such a loud big bang because the underlying issue ranges so widely from class, as in Karl Marx, not school, issues at home to geopolitics abroad, and even the real meaning of the professed Trumpists' core aims, namely making America great again and putting it first. See how well written this article is? I like this article. What makes things more tense again is that this is not a first. Instead, over the past few weeks, we have witnessed 2 major Trumpist family quarrels, with the current H1B fight being preceded by a slightly less theatrical one over, in essence, the budget and limits on public debt. It is starting to look as if, this is how the world views us, folks. It is starting to look as if Trumpism 2.0 has a serious schism and faction issue. What's all that new power going to be good for if you can't literally keep it together? From a historian of, among other things, the former Soviet Union, a free pro trip for the Donald. Lenin, 1921. Just Google it. They had some serious turmoil, okay, in developing the Soviet Union. Such crafts and rifts can be damaging, not only in the long, but in the short term. In the budget fight, Trump actually lost due to a small but embarrassing Republican rebellion that he publicly tried and failed to master. Apparently egged on by Musk to such an extent that Team Trump had to deny the perfectly unelected first buddy's inappropriate influence. Trump tried to threaten the rebels into submission, and then they defied him. That was politically awkward and may presage future problems, especially as the Republicans' control of the House of Representatives is now down to what the Wall Street Journal calls a razor-thin majority. Trump will enter the White House already seeming weaker than immediately after his triumphant comeback win in November. No wonder the New York Times commentariat has been gloating. During the H1B battle, after waiting a few days, Trump did finally step in to lend his support to the supporters of the visa, which he too had attacked in the past. The Musk crowd accordingly, never mind that, in reality, Trump mixed up the H1B program with other visa types with very different purposes. Details demanding attention spans, any attention spans, have long stopped mattering in American elite politics. Nowadays, the world is grateful when a U.S. president can find the door. Yet on this occasion, Trump's intervention was markedly less aggressive than during the budget rumble, more in the mode of, kids, stop squabbling in the back seat, Dad has to drive. And if you think about it, Trump's caution makes sense not only in its immediate context. How many more snafus, even before Inauguration Day, can one take? His comparative moderation also speaks to the fact mentioned above already. There's just so much more riding on the superficially small and bureaucratic H1B issue. And that's true, folks. The H1B visa program itself provides a total of, and they have numbers, okay? And I didn't research the actual numbers and what they were going to be, but this is accurate. The H-1B program itself provides a total of 85,000 visas to stay and work in the U.S. per year. So the guy that I helped get into the country as a engineer of fiber cement, that guy, you can only have 85,000 of them every year. To stay and work in the U.S. Consider that America has a population of 333 million and a civilian workforce of almost 170 million. And it is obvious that the sheer size is not what makes the H-1B such a very sore spot. Rather has to do with whose labor and skills precisely this visa is meant to capture for the U.S. economy. H-1B is designed to bring in especially valuable experts, often raised and trained elsewhere. Okay, like my H-1B visa guy. Who was in fiber cement. There was no fiber cement in America in 1995. There just wasn't any. And so we had to steal this guy from Australia. Now, Australia would have loved to keep him. They had a pretty big industry. But we stole him under the H1B program. Now, that program hasn't been revamped, as far as I'm aware, in years. That it's been one of these exceptions that allows us to go out and steal people. Okay, and they have quite a few of these, and the rules have, I'm sure, changed over the years dramatically. I haven't done an H1B or even participated in one since probably 2010, and so it's been a long time. I looked into it on another matter for another company while I was in Qatar to see if somebody could get him, but no big deal. Haven't done anything even recently like that. So, we're often raised and trained elsewhere. In that manner, in the Muskian reading of the situation, H1B helps keep the U.S. competitive. Even better, dominant, the way national sports teams nowadays also recruit foreigners simply because they are the best. For Stephen Bannon, however, things look very different. The H1B visa program is a total and complete scam. He reminded his followers, concocted by the lords of easy money on Wall Street and the oligarchs in Silicon Valley. That's, of course, Musk and his friends. Initially, he concedes, it was just about increasing profits. But by now, Bannon charges, there is a darker element to this scheme for globally creaming off the best and the brightest, namely, a contempt for America and American citizens. Both Musk and Bannon have a point. You should not trust either an inch. Make no mistake, this is not a struggle between enlightened, cosmopolitan, and tolerant tech elites standing up for migrants, a few on one side, or sinister, provincial, and grumpy nativists on the other. Both Musk and Bannon are, in their own way, savvy operators and entrepreneurs with decidedly international horizons. Both are also ruthless and unscrupulous. Humanity, fairness, or benevolence does not enter into this. What this is, rather, in political terms, is a quarrel between two essential elements of the 2.0 version of the Trumpist movement. For the tech and other oligarchs represented by Musk, the U.S. is simply the best base of an increasingly feudal capitalism that is making them even richer and more powerful. Ordinary citizens of whatever ethnicity, this is key, matter only insofar as they still have to be cajoled and manipulated into the minimal compliance that is mistaken for democracy in America. Hence, for Vivek Ramaswamy, another billionaire oligarch riding into power with Trump, it is natural to openly despise the simple folk in an ironically colonialist vein as lazy and mediocre. For Musk, again, his usual narrow-minded complaints about the failures of American schools and universities, as he sees them, goes very well not with a determination to make education better for all Americans, but instead an irate determination to keep chasing down talent elsewhere. Way to make a country great again, by definitely not putting its people first. Bannon, on the other side, insists that entrepreneurs living, operating, and making large profits in the U.S. should not be allowed to evade the issue of employing and, before that, producing the highly skilled workforce that they need. As he puts it with oratorical flair, the tech elites need to honor the citizens of the U.S. who provide the platform for you nerds even to exist. Harsh, a tad demagogic, but fair enough, actually. Well, he does have a point. But so does Musk, by the way. The problem with Bannon's anger is not that it's baseless. It's anything but. The trouble is that Bannon and his kind want to frame the problem as one of insufficient national loyalty. What they cannot do is get down to its root cause, crude exploitation and raging inequality. For Bannon, Musk is a bad American, and Musk's hypersensitive and slightly unhinged response to being challenged on the H1B issue betrays his oddly persistent insecurity as a first-generation immigrant. But in reality, they are quintessential Americans because both unquestioningly believe not only that the purpose of life is the ceaseless accumulation of wealth and power, but also that the process justifies the maximum exploitation of others by all means available. Isn't this a fantastic article, people? I don't care that it's written by somebody at RT. This is deep stuff, and I'm glad I'm sharing it with you. That is what H1B is really all about, isn't it? It is behind all the kind and also rather condescending rhetoric about offering chances in careers, only one facet of the U.S.'s pattern of global parasitism, targeting those literally made and trained elsewhere. What Bannon finds so objectionable is not that fact, though. He believes in a Darwinian world where weakening other societies by systematically brain-draining their elites is simply a good move. For Bannon, the scandal is that these American oligarchs have started treating their own too brazenly just like everyone else, as a disposable, dispensable proletariat to be driven hard and used up in the most efficient manner. Don't you feel that way sometimes, people? So much about class and domestic politics. There can be little doubt that this deep fault line in Trumpism 2.0 will keep producing nasty quakes. Between the globalist oligarch elite with enormous financial clout and populist counter-elites mobilizing, like popular tribunes in ancient Rome, the well-founded, if usually misguided anger of the many left behind. But there is a larger backdrop. The U.S. is, as Rome turned out to be, an empire in decline. The underlying problem revealed by the hunt for skills abroad is a key factor in that decline. Consider a few figures from the recent, and this is in French, La Défaite des Occidents, and I don't know if I said that right, The Defeat of the West by Emmanuel Todd, the French intellectual who became famous for predicting the fall of the Soviet Union. Intrigued by the failure of American plants to produce enough ammunition for the proxy war in Ukraine, Todd explored the hollowness of the U.S. economy. He found that in 1928, the U.S. produced almost half, 44.8%, of all things made industrial in the world. By 2019, that share was down to 16.8%. Likewise, in 2018, China was making almost a quarter, 24.8%, of all machines produced globally. The U.S., 6.6%. Now that's a huge freaking decline, people. Yet as Todd explains, looking at production only gets you so far because an economy is first of all a set of men and women who have been trained and acquired skills. And yet nowadays only 72% of American 7.2% of American students pursue engineering degrees. I told you this, and this is an aside here. I told you before that the U.S. is only producing an approximate number of 30,000 engineers per year in their best schools. Meanwhile, in China and India, they're producing, between the two countries, nearly 1 million. Now, you tell me where we're getting our engineering tech expertise. You tell me where Russia's getting it, by the way. Partners in BRICS and engineering. There are some very big things at play here. And if you don't take from this that America really is in somewhat of a decline, making America great again isn't going to happen in 4 years. Okay? Just so you know, that's a Sam opinion. That has nothing to do with this beautiful article that I'm reading. Let's see. A social brain drain inside America toward law, finance, or business? No. Elon, gender studies. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. A social brain drain inside America toward law, finance, or business? No, Elon, gender studies are not the main problem, and other well-paid professions has taken place. In Todd's harsh but bracing terms, American education has come with a multiplying of diploma-multiplying parasites. So you know people who have 50 different degrees and don't do shit. Yeah. We got plenty of those in America. They become consultants. I'm a consultant, by the way. Come see me. I'll consult with you. And how has the U.S. This is a long article. We're almost we're 2/3 of the way done. Okay. And how has the U.S. made up for this turn away from training for actually making things? By increasing its importation of so-called STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics labor, from a share of the overall U.S. STEM workforce of 16.5 in 2000 to 23.1 in 2019. As a whole, these imported STEM workers are also more educated than their American equivalents. Some 67.3% of U.S.-born ones had a BA degree. 86.5% of those were born elsewhere. This is a snapshot of Todd's numbers, but the gist should be clear. The whole H1B phenomenon is only the tip of the iceberg. And this is why this article is so important to you, or to me. In reality, the U.S. is suffering from a long-term, pervasive decline of education, training, and skills. Its rather typical answer: steal more from others. Yet, here is the problem with that approach, and I mean the practical strategic problem, not the moral one, which is obvious, but usually doesn't interest Americans. Free riding on the educational prowess, discipline, institutions, and outlays of other societies works only as long as your society is much more attractive, or at least manages to appear so. The attractiveness is, however, exactly what the U.S. is losing. This is what I was telling you yesterday. Ironically, both the Millet loving liberalist capitalists of the Musk variety and the barnstorming nationalists of the Bannon type are contributing to that loss. A country reduced to an unfree market dominated by oligarchs who buy elections for presidents is not a magnet. Neither is a place where whiteness persists to be important. At the same time, other countries are becoming more and more attractive. I'm telling you, this is absolutely true, Americans. There are some very attractive places, including Colombia, right? Do you really want to be stuck with American schools when you could have Indian ones? The antediluvian, I don't know that word, I'm sorry, New York subway instead of the modern Moscow metro? Agreed. The American almost steam-aged railway network, this is what I talked about yesterday, instead of China's high-speed rail? Think of it this way. In their own misguided ways, both Musk and Bannon do want to make America great again. Musk as the hub of a techno-feudal capitalist empire in which ultimately nations are just production factors, all of them, including the U.S. Bannon as a nationalist bully state with imperial power but clear privilege for the home population, or at least most of them. Neither of these two sad visions will work out because they do not even acknowledge. This is what Sam Trapp would say. I agree wholly with this paragraph, the final paragraph. Neither of these two sad visions will work out because they do not even acknowledge that curing the rot at the heart of America demands humility. Stop thinking about dominance. It's going away anyhow. Start thinking about literacy, numeracy, and yes, fairness, the greatest motivator of them all, if you wish to realize a common cause. Now, I tell you what, I am extremely glad I read that article to you, and I'm extremely glad that I stumbled across it last night. I'm also extremely glad that I happen to know a little bit about the H1B program and what it was designed to do. And I always used to think, even as we were still in the guy from Australia, he wants to come over. He didn't want to stay. He wanted to come over. He wanted a contract. He wanted to come over and stay for a few years. He wouldn't come in to stay forever. And I don't know whatever happened to him because we got bought out by, James Hardy. backer board, we got bought out by them. Our plant was bought and repaired because apparently it wasn't being run properly. And maybe they didn't want him. I don't know, don't remember. But he was a good guy, and I think he just wanted to go back home. His family didn't particularly care for it here. They didn't want to stay. He didn't want to find another job. He came over to make some money, some good money, and go back home and build himself a house in Australia where he wanted to be. Most of the people that are coming to America through our southern gates, our southern, I don't know what, open plains, throw some buffalo in there, and the people can wander around in buffalo suits and cross as well. And maybe that's an easy way to do it since there are no fences in these pastures, so people can just cross. But those are not people on the H1B program. The H1B program allows you to come over and get a visa, and it is being abused. That we do have engineers. Our engineers should come first, maybe. But then again, if we're not producing them in the quantity or quality that needs to be for our own industry, and someone can point to a particular need for that industry or that special like our fiber cement guy, there just weren't any. We had looked in America. They weren't around. And so you had to find them in other countries. But that's not necessarily true now. Now, Musk, he just wants to be able to cherry pick the great people from anywhere he wants to. Bannon wants to say, build it at home, make America great again, blah, blah, blah. Make America great again might include stealing some people from other countries, like Mr. Musk wants to. But airing these disputes, which should be taking place in private on X, is the same crap that bothered me so much about Trump in 2016. Not everything is for public consumption. If you're going to keep, at least know what you're talking about. The person who wrote that article, by the way, is a guy named Tariq Cyril Amar. He's a historian from Germany working at Koch University, Istanbul, on Russia, Ukraine, the Eastern Europe, the history of World War II, the cultural Cold War, and the politics of memory. Pretty cool, and it has places where he can go. Now that is obviously something that you can find on RT News, U.S. version. There's some pretty good things to read on there. Let's see here. Let's keep to the similar topic of immigration and what is happening with all of the. And it's been very popular in America. There ought to be a complete overhaul of the immigration system. All of these visa categories, which you can go out and do a quick visa category to find out. It's not just tourist and employment or residence visa or anything like that. There are so many different types, and we're going to find out exactly how many they list on the website. Our AI guy. Okay, basically there are two main categories of visas: non-immigrant for temporary people, and immigrant for people who are intending to stay. But then you have some additional ones, right? Your visitor visas for temporary stays for business, B1, tourism, B2, or both, B1 and B2. F1 visas are for academic studies, M1 visas for vocational studies, media visas for representatives of foreign press, film, journal, or other. To apply for non-immigration, you can blah, 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 fill out all these paperwork. But there are also many other visa categories and the, what do you call it? The H1B employment type visa is one of those. And those are visa categories where people can come and stay. You also have these people who are continually in, what do you call, they're in refugee status. And this status, like I don't even know if this rule still applies, but it used to, and I think it still does. If you're from Cuba and you swim over and you make it past the sharks and get past the Coast Guard and get to our shores, and you put your foot, you touch the ground, you stay. At least that's how it used to be. And now that basically applies at our southern border as well, if you can stay. They're trying to prevent that. But did you see the part in that article? Did you get this part? Because this is important. Like the article I read to you yesterday about the girl being depressed at Christmas time, and speaking with her former Sudanese lawyer, who has been here for a little while, made some money for his family, but wants to leave, does not want to stay in the U.S. To the girl who's born in America, doesn't want to stay in the U.S. To me, who wishes to travel in other places and might end up somewhere else. And in this article, the mention, rather openly, a fact that Americans might not be as privy to, especially if they don't leave the country. The attraction of America is more the idea of America than the reality of America. I told you about the Ukrainian lady who just wanted to come here and wanted to stay. She preferred Germany because, it's better. They get more money as a refugee. You get more freebies. You never have to work. And America does our social payments, although still reasonable, they're less than they are in Germany. You can you can live off of it a little better in Germany, and all of your medicine is covered and all of that. Here the Ukrainians coming over, if they qualify for it, they also get, by the way, they do get Medicare, Medicaid. How do you like them apples? They get free insurance if they're a refugee. Do we get free insurance? I don't think so. We don't get that in America. That's not part of the thing that we end up getting. But we give it to other people who tend to expect it because they come from other countries that have social medicine. When I go to Russia and I pay for some of my own medicine, it doesn't cost very much, people, because it's a different category. I told you when we were in Russia. No, where were we? Uzbekistan, or we Kyrgyzstan. I think we're in Kyrgyzstan, Bishkek, a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful city. I would move there in a heartbeat. In Kyrgyzstan, very modern, very nice, excellent people, great food. Uzbeki food is fantastic, and you'll find Uzbeki food all over around there. And Uzbeki cooks are best in the world, in my humble opinion. And although I've had good food in many, many places. But when we were over there, this was about medicine. When we were over there, Lana had a problem, and we were staying in a Airbnb kind of a place, $18 a night. How do you like that? In a 3-bedroom apartment in a nice right center of town in Bishkek, and walk everywhere. It was beautiful. And at any rate, she wasn't feeling well. Had a bit of a problem. Middle of the night, 1 o'clock in the morning, called and this was new for me. I had no idea what was going on. And get this. Here's different countries. This is Russia, okay? This is, in America, Russia's backwards, Russia's this, Russia. No, they're not, okay? And they absolutely are not. And this story is indicative of that. So she was feeling bad, massive headache, pain in the stomach, severe, whatever. And she called a medical provider. And, I was trying to figure out if we had to, get an Uber, get an ambulance, take her somewhere. And they said, no, send her on, we'll send somebody over. Okay. Well, about 20 minutes later, up comes an ambulance, pulls up to the apartment complex. guy and a girl get out, come up to the apartment, come on in. They bring 2 pretty good sized bags of equipment and treat her on the spot. Now, the guy was a doctor, the girl was a nurse. And so a doctor came in the ambulance, came all the way there. They work, whatever shifts they make, and they make decent money, and they treated her. They stayed for an hour to an hour and a half, gave her 2 bags of fluids. She had some kind of wasn't drinking enough fluids or maybe not enough electrolytes or whatever, but she was dehydrated, had a severe dehydration problem. And they took care of her, stayed for an hour, gave me a list of prescriptions. And by the way, in Russia, there are aptiekas, pharmacies. There are pharmacies everywhere, okay? And these pharmacies, 90% of them are 24-hour, okay? So you can go to these pharmacies and get stuff, and they have big, strong glass doors. You buy through these little bulletproof things, and these are not, but you can go. It is extremely close. It's not like you have to, wait for the pharmacy to open in the morning or get it only at a hospital. These are everywhere. And he gave me a list of prescriptions, and he said, listen, while she's getting her fluids, how about you run down to the pharmacy and get these drugs I've prescribed for her? And so I went a block down the street, but gave the prescription. They checked the prescription, checked the doctor's prerequisites required, and gave me the 4 bottles of prescription medicine that they gave to me. And this medicine cost me $3.58. If well, you know what? Under $4. I don't remember the exact amount of money, but it's under $4. And at that time, the ruble was trading about 85 to 1. Now it's about 110, if I remember. And so how many rubles? It was still less than 500 rubles. And 500 rubles, the average person was making at the time, call it $500 a month that they make over there. So it's a small amount of your amount of money that you have to pay. It's a small amount of money. And then I went back to the apartment, brought the drugs. The doctor and the nurse were still there, and they were checking everything, finalizing what they were doing with her. Gave me some instructions, told me what to do, told her what to do, and we're getting ready to go. And so I knew I had to pay them. And at that time, you could still pay. I was still using my Capital One card. I paid for everything with my telephone, and I was using my Capital One, which still worked. The following year, it didn't work that way. But when I went and paid, so get this, an hour and a half, a doctor, a nurse, an ambulance, and staying and treating her, not running off to other rooms, not running anywhere else, not doing anything. Signed specifically to her to stay there, and the end of it, it was $30 that I paid for that service. $30, okay? And trust me, it was good care, all right? And I've told you before of what we're missing in the United States. I can't tell you, but the older I get, the more important it gets, because Jesus, you can't go to the doctor. What are you going to get for $30 in a doctor visit? That's your copay. It's your copay to go. Well, hell, your copay is higher than that these days. That was the total bill. I said, well, what about she has insurance with Russia. She has a Russian, social insurance that they take, she takes part of her taxes out or whatever every year. They have a flat tax rate. I don't remember the percent, but they take out this tax, but that covers all those things, these social medicine things. But the doctors still make good money. These they're probably not as wealthy as ours here, but it's a well-paid profession over there, and they want experts. And those doctors are are pretty independent. They do their, they're treating people just like doctors would over here. And but think about this. When I will go to the sanatoriums over there, and I've been to 3 of them, sanatorium, where you go and you spend, it's a health retreat. You go in there and you get your prostate examined. For they give you a special diets. They check you out. They do back and spine and knees and all these things that they do, and they check you out and verify you. And the sanatorium doesn't cost $500 for the week, including your room and board, including great food, including a decent room. It's not like you're in a crappy place, and some of them are freaking fantastic. And everybody gets a free one every year as part of their governmental or factory employment. So let's say that you work in a factory and you get and I've heard several different versions of how this works, and different things that people get. But think about this. As part of their compensation that they get from whatever factory they work at a factory. And as part of it, they get 6 weeks of vacation. Okay, they don't get this BS 2 weeks vacation in America, 10 days, every, after a year starts immediately, and they get 6 weeks. Now, we're a different society, and they're used to that from communist times. But all over Europe, it's the same thing. You're getting a month of vacation, no matter what. And then all the holidays and all, they think differently than we do as Americans. And we're just cattle. We are production related cattle in America, and we think differently. And in Russia, they get, as part of their compensation, a 10-day, a 2-week stay at a sanatorium, part of their stuff. It has to be this sanatorium. You want to switch, you're going to have to pay for that yourself, or blah, blah, blah. But they have partnerships for these sanatoriums. So you'll see people all from the same factory that come and spread themselves out over them. But you meet all these people from different places that are coming there. Oh, no, this is our free one every year. Oh, cool. Oh, you're from America? Yeah, well, what'd you have to pay? And you tell them what you're paying, and they're like, oh, because it's a lot of money. To pay $500 for that, well, for 2 people basically, is a month pay for them. And but for us, you kidding me? $500? I'll pay that happily. And go there. People think differently, and something America. I don't want anybody to think that I truly believe that America is in decline, but I've been saying this for a long time. Epics come and epics go. Superpowers rise and fall. Rome collapses. The Soviet Union collapsed, and we could go into a different story about that. But these things occur, people. And America, I'm not saying that, we're not great. I'm saying that, what difference does it make? Why do we have to be number one? Who gives a crap? There are alternatives out there, and I'm not saying you should go explore them, but there are articles that I've read and looked into of places that people can retire. Older people can retire in their 40s. You realize that there are 5 South American countries given residency on day 1 if you meet certain criteria, usually for older Americans. You can't afford to live on your Social Security there, but I got news for you. You can in these other countries. And there are ways to do it, and they're fantastic. A lot of them speak English anyway. So if you're looking for consultation on some of those things, I'd be happy to help you out, or point you in the right direction. Or heck, just continue listening to this show, and I'll try to put you in there. I'm not going to go over the entire schedule. I appreciate you listening to me. You can follow me. My video channel is International Flavor English on YouTube, and this I've done in video. I'm trying to make my program a live video and radio feed, And when I travel, this one's pre-recorded, but if you wanted to watch it, I'm just sitting in my car because I like the sound quality. The sound quality's a little better. It kind of echoes if you're in a block style apartment. And so I appreciate you listening to the show. I hope you find the content interesting. If you do, I'd very much appreciate it if you logged on and helped my International Flavor English version channel on YouTube grow. I can't get into the I have to have a certain number of videos. I have to have a certain number of likes and comments. So if I can convince you to get on International Flavor and either watch a video or just like one or sign up and subscribe so you get notice when I send out new content. I do also send out little shorts, little videos of like the place I was at yesterday, where I take videos and show you some of the beauty of the places I've been. And if you're interested in that kind of thing, or you'd like to add your own International Flavor videos of places you've been, I'm not against adding those things to my International Flavor channel to show some of the beautiful places that there are in the world, including America. Thank you very much. I appreciate each and every one of you. You're listening to damradio.com and Samuel Trapp on International Flavor. You can find the schedule for the rest of the folks at damradio.com/schedule. Have a very nice day.